we've developed a very powerful ability and to make excuses for for the state that we're in. We very good at that. We like, oh yeah, that's just because such and so and so and we strong in our conviction about that. Like, hey man, you just did something that is going to negatively affect your your whole future generation. Well, I was doing it such and such, and then and they got this whole explanation, and you look at them like, but the damage has been done, you know. So what
Right.
are you justifying that and it's like we don't want to be accountable anymore. So these are things that can help us put us back into a state where we have to start being accountable again for everything,
Yeah.
what we think, what we say, what we do, where we go, we all of these things. And when we get back to that state of accountability, then we'll understand really and truly how to care again as humans, because we don't
Right.
know how to care as humans. We have concern for each
Mhm.
other. We want to look out for each other, but we don't know how to care. And when you care for another human being, you you're putting them in a position where the attention, the love, the self care that you would give to yourself, you want them to have it just like that, you
Mhm.
know, and you are willing to assist in them gaining it. And it's like we don't do that anymore.
Malik's First Job Podcast, here to answer any questions that y'all ask. Financial literacy and resources. Parents and young people becoming bosses. CEOs, future leaders, entrepreneurs. Conferences and boardrooms getting sponsors secured. If you want generational wealth, Brooklyn's own Karaam Phillip with information to help. Malik's First Job Podcast. Malik's Podcast. Brooklyn's own Karaam Phillip. Karaam Phillip. Malik's First Job Podcast. Podcast. Brooklyn's own Karaam Phillip. Generational wealth.
All right, greetings everyone. How you doing? This is Kerwin Phillip with another episode of the Malik's First Job Podcast, where we speak about leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy for parents and teens. Today, as we get into the new year, I have a good friend of mine that I'm inviting on as a guest. It's my good friend. We know him for like, I can't even think how many years it's been. It's
Right.
probably 20 plus years. You know, it's hard when you put a number to it.
Right.
Just though I've known the brother for a long time. Right, this is a good friend of mine, Dr. Karaam Ellis. Um, Dr. Karaam is a student of nature and the universe. He's the founder of the Temple of Human Spirituality and the creator of the KaLu Global Curriculum Initiative, as well as the High Tribal Consultant to KaLu La Tama, an Indigenous Tribal Nation. He has authored over 40 books on inspiration, education, and for children. He also has assisted over 20 children and adults in publishing their books. Dr. Karaam is an inspirational speaker and journeyor on a unique spiritual path. He has traveled many different schools of thought and has sat at the feet of many masters. As a result, he works towards creating a new paradigm for our future, starting with the creation of sacred spaces. So join me with welcoming Dr. Karaam Ellis to the Malik's First Job podcast, man. I'm glad to have you today.
Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate you.
Yes,
All the
yes, yes. So last week, you had kind of shared a video speaking about sacred spaces, right? The importance of establishing sacred spaces. And after I watched the video, I said, the message that you shared in that video, I think a lot of people needed to hear as they, embark on this new year, because you have a lot of people who start speaking about resolutions. They want to lose weight, they want to eat better, become a better person, and a whole wide range of goals people want to achieve as they enter into a new cycle. And and I think what you shared during that video is important, is a key element and part of that process. So if you can kind of share exactly, when you speak about sacred spaces, what exactly is a sacred space?
A sacred space is a consecrated and specialized area that a person or a group of people can create that houses the best of them and is protected from the worst of them and the worst of the world. It's a simple definition of it, and it can take on many different forms. The most, I guess, familiar sacred space would be the womb of the mother. So before we came here, we were in a sacred space, and we were introduced to this chaotic world. And our purpose really is to find more purpose while we're here. And sacred space is one of the things that can allow us to kind of move a little bit more purposefully and productively in our own lives.
Okay, okay. Now, so as I mentioned before, people are, trying to embark in these different journeys to better themselves. And I think from what you had mentioned in the video, this space being an area that kind of separates you from the chaos
Yeah.
of the world, right? I think in the video you spoke about the different frequencies that are around us and all the stuff that's going on. So what are some like strategies we can use to kind of eliminate some of the noise that's around us to help us focus in on the goals that we're trying to achieve?
The simplest strategy is focusing on breath. When you focus on your breath, what you do is you allow yourself to step away from what's going on in the world and focus on what's going on in the inner universe of you.
Okay.
Starting with the breath. When we start getting into sacred spaces and the creation of sacred spaces and the establishment of spaces, what you're doing is you are isolating yourself away from the noise. Now, the physical isolation of the noise is important, but the vibrational isolation is also more important, because you can go into a room in your house and close the door and pretty much don't hear much of what's going on outside of that door, but the frequencies and the vibrations are still affecting the space within that room. So we do that a lot. We have a rough day at work, or we get into an argument, or we are bad. So anything can take place, and we jump in our car and we driving and we turn on some music, and the music kind of like soothes us, or we want some music that's like make us like get excited, get hype or whatever. So we are controlling the frequencies within our environment, even though we're isolating ourselves physically. So when we talk about sacred space means that you are looking to to manage, to create, to perpetuate, to maintain the highest frequencies when you are in this space. So protecting that from frequencies entering it is key in establishing a sacred space. So you can have a corner in your bedroom that you curtain it off, like one of those sliding, the folding partition doors, and you go into the space and you can say your affirmations, supplications, prayers, whatever it is you may use. You can have a mirror and look at yourself and give yourself confident conversations. But if anything in the room, the frequency is off, it will affect that space. So the question becomes, how do you create a sacred space, and how do you protect that space from what's outside of the environment? So now we got to start talking about stuff like understanding crystals and the significance of the various frequencies and vibrations of crystals. We got to start understanding the significance of like burning incenses, burning frankincense, burning sage, burning Palo Santo, even burning sulfur if necessary. They all have a specific purpose. The actual construction, and when you get into like, I guess, Eastern schools of thought, and we speak about temples. Temples are designed, they're built specifically, ancient Africa, ancient Egypt, um, in Asia and in India and even South America. Temples are built utilizing specific materials that conduct a specific frequency. So
Okay.
if you look at the architecture of the ancients was different than the architecture of the modern era. They use limestone, they use sandstone, they use granite, they use a lot of the earth, the natural earthy elements in their building. And those elements conducted a lower frequency that was conducive to a higher vibration within humans.
Okay.
So modern society uses steel and concrete and a lot of the man-made and man-manipulated metals and things like that, which conduct high frequencies, which is why there's a lot of insanity in the world, which is also why principles like greed and materialism and selfishness drive society, because everybody's frequencies are so thrown off. They have us resonate low, but they conduct that high frequency through the building materials, which agitates the mind. That's what it does. It agitates the mind. So we in this world where we like, okay, I gotta do this and I gotta do that, and I need to do this and I need to have that and I need to. Okay, well, you need to put yourself on a schedule. Okay, I got a schedule. Okay, today I need to do this. Today I need to do that, and we lock ourselves into modalities that take us away from our natural existence. So we become conduits for stress. We become conduits for worry, trauma, and we pass trauma down generation to generation because we are in these forced, unnatural environments, and we are not allowed to connect with the best part of us. So when we start building sacred spaces, we're talking about creating a space that's going to take into consideration all of those concepts, those principles, and begin to. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to, source some granite and some sandstone and build you a sacred space in your house. But
Right.
you can have certain crystals in that environment that keep out unnecessary frequencies. Shungite is a good crystal for that.
What is that? What's it called?
Shungite. It's a black crystal that's only found in Russia.
Okay.
So generally you have to outsource it. I thought I had some around here somewhere, but shungite is a good crystal to block out even like cell phone frequencies, right? You can put shungite on your cell phone and it'll keep the negative frequencies of that phone from adversely affecting you. So, and it's interesting when you think about cell phone technology, they had a choice of which type of crystalline technology they could use. They could have used the crystalline technology in cell phones that was beneficial to the brain. They chose the worst one.
Wow.
So that showed you that the intent, there's an intent and a motive behind what drives modern society that we have to be careful of. So just simple things like the cell phone, and having a cell phone, we generally have it on on our ear, or we got the Bluetooth in, we got them in. All of that stuff is sending destructive frequencies directly into our brain. So, and there's no counter for that. I'm gonna go on a vacation and I just need to get away from everything. But we got our cell phone and we taking selfies and what I'm saying? we videotape, look at this view I had, so the cell phone is still there. So we don't have the opportunity to get away from that frequency. So when you start building sacred spaces, you definitely want to have to take into consideration the things that are creating the frequencies. Like you wouldn't put your sacred space in your home close to the kitchen if you have a microwave. If you have any kind of device that gives off electromagnetic waves. You know what I'm saying? It's things that we got to take into consideration. So, and again, just starting out, and what I tell a lot of people I talk to, I say just starting out, your voice can be the conductor of a higher frequency in a space, but you have to pay attention to how you're using your voice. So if I'm gonna have a sacred space, then there's certain things that I have to take into consideration. Like one, the English language is a low vibrating frequency. It's probably the lowest on the planet. And it's the major reason why the majority of the population of English speaking people can't sing, because the language it deadens the vocal instrument. So when our vocal instrument starts here by the third eye all the way down to the diaphragm, and that whole instrument is deadened in a lot of us. So when it's time for us to sing and we can't even hold a note, it's because that language has not allowed us to use it. But if you go to another country, anywhere where they speak in another language, and everybody can sing, like the majority of the people can sing, because their language is tonal and it stimulates that organ. using your language in a sacred space or in a beginning sacred space, which means that you have to use high frequency words, high frequency tones in that space. So if I'm going to start something, and let's say I have a closet that I'm going to dedicate. It's a nice walk-in closet, but I'm going to convert this. This is going to be my sacred space. I'm going to find me some crystals. I'm gonna do a little research. Like I said, you get some shungite crystals. Um, Amethyst is a good crystal. Selenite is a very good crystal to have. But you can get into any of them. Tiger's eye, quartz, rose quartz, tourmaline. All of these different crystals, they all have a significance. They have a crystal Bible that you can get, and that'll give you the different energies behind the crystals.
Right.
You put some crystals in your room. Put some water in your room. A glass of water, and the glass of water it represents ancestral, the ancestral highway. The ancestors travel. They can communicate and connect through that water. Light a candle. They also can see the candlelight. But use words of power only in this room, in this space. If you don't speak, if English is the only language you know, then research some power words. Get you a list of power words, phrases, affirmations, and translate them into any language other than English. And just use those words in that space. When you go in there, you have an affirmation. An affirmation that we use within KaLu La Tama is, there is nothing in the universe that I cannot do. I am a deity and a child of the stars. Now we say this in our language. We say that in your sacred space. So if that's the only thing you know, that's the only thing you say in that space. And the rest of the time that you spend in that space, you spend in quiet contemplation, silence, meditation. You allow the frequency, the higher frequency of this space to interact and to pull your frequency up to that place. You can have a tone plan, so like the ohm, or you can have frequency music like the 528 or the 741 or the 420. All of those different. You can have those. Have a speaker where it plays it on a loop in that space. Don't bring anything other than the speaker into that space. So like if you got like a Bluetooth on your phone and you're playing off your phone, leave your phone outside the space, but bring the speaker in there, right?
Okay.
So you don't want nothing to interfere with that speaker. So New Year's resolution in a sacred space, a New Year's resolution is much more powerful. Don't say the resolution, write it down, right? Get you some joss paper, write it down on some joss paper, take it in there, look at it, meditate on it, say your power words, burn it, and then come on about the space. So what we have to understand is that there is an ancient practice that indigenous humans had that allowed us to maintain a very close connection with nature and the universe around us. So whatever we needed, we just had to ask for it. But we knew how, we knew where, we knew who to ask. If I needed to ask the trees, I would ask the trees. If I needed to ask the flowers, the plants, if I needed to ask the water, if I needed to ask the air, or if I needed to ask fire, we understood that there was a connection that we had because we vibrated at the frequency that was in tune with that. So going back there is the process is, first, I have to understand that I create a place within this abnormal, unnatural environment that begins the process of sending me back to that natural state. Then from there, I can go. The next thing is, okay, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to build me a space. So with our program, we have a project called the Enclosed Garden Project. And the Enclosed Garden Project literally was going to be groups of communities coming together to build a sacred space based on those principles. And the community will be tasked with maintaining and protecting that space. So if you are a part of building something and you know what it represents, you're less likely to let somebody come in and disrespect that space. Right. As opposed to you going and visiting a space like that. You see somebody else, oh, this is nice. This is nice. Let me take some pictures and then but you don't understand the significance of the space and why it was built. So you may do something to desecrate that space without even realizing it. But if you're a part of building process, then now you have a connection. Just like, teaching a child. You teach a child that comes to a space that you are in, as opposed to your child. There's a connection. Like, this is my baby right here. So this child, I care about this child, but this is my child. So it's going to be a little bit extra. Is an extra understanding of the significance of what you're doing. So the enclosed garden project is a project where we're going to be building these enclosed gardens for the purpose of creating sacred spaces for humans to see, to interact and experience, and then to assist them as we move towards healing humanity and helping our Mother Earth to heal. We want 144 of these around the planet. That's our goal. 144 of these gardens, and they're going to be many different sizes. Some will be within spaces. Some will be like freestanding on land. It just depends on the group and where we are and whatever. But that's one of our focuses.
Okay. Now you said a whole lot during like when you're speaking on. So just want to unpack some of the stuff that you touched on. So we speak about like a sacred space like within the house, and I think I heard you mention earlier that the sacred space needs to be everywhere that you go, right? Whereas let's say people speak about a temple, right? Like a temple, like a synagogue, church, masjid. But what about the inner temple, like the individual as a temple, right? So how can you create your own sacred space within yourself so that wherever you go, that you are that sacred space? Is that something that can be created as well?
Yes, that comes as a result of making a conscious physical effort to maintain a physical sacred space around you. We became sick as humanity because we were in sick environments. Like, nobody just came along and said to us one day, a chew or coughed on us, and we just became sick like that. You know what I'm saying? We were placed in unnatural, sick environments, and over time, generations, we began to develop the sicknesses that the environments were built upon. So now we're trying to come out of that. So it's going to take environments to bring us out of that state, and that's what we have to understand. So if you go to a church, there is an environment in there that exists for a reason, a specific reason. It's based upon the principles of what the church stands for, the principles of Christianity. But more importantly, it's based upon the principles of the council of men who are responsible for establishing the religion. So a church has to have specific things that perform specific duties. The same thing in the masjid. So you go into church, there's the pews, there's there's the altar, there's the stage, there's a section for the band, there's a section for the choir, there's a section for the council, the church council. Then you may have rooms, depending on how big the church is. You may have different areas, different rooms. You may have a confessional, depending on what kind of church it is. So all of these things are designed specifically for the purposes of what the council of who created the religion wanted their followers to be a part of. The masjid, the same thing. There's a prayer area. There's a social area. There's a washing area. So everything is designed specifically for the purposes of what the religion was designed to do. Now, the difference between masajid, churches, synagogues, and temples is the temples were established based upon human principles and the duty that the inhabitants of the temple had to maintain the temple as an energy, as a frequency. So the Buddhist temples, the Hindu temples, the Egyptian temples, the African and South American temples, any temples that you may find, they're built because they represent a grid work around the planet to help to counterbalance the negative, right? Okay. Masjids and churches and synagogues are built to promote the ideologies of the religion that was established. So, there's no, and like I said, in this day and time, there's no reason to argue about religion anymore. It really isn't.
Right.
A person is going to believe what a person is going to believe, and that's fine. But the problems is, like, if I say that I have a specific belief and you have a specific belief, and then you look at me as if my belief is wrong because it's not your belief,
Right.
which is what religion does. Then we step out of the realm of being humans, and now we're just mortals. We're mortals. We're fighting. We're beasts of the field. So it's time. It's time for us to begin to develop an understanding, and overstanding, and understanding, whatever standing you want, about the significance of a structure maintaining a frequency. So now, when it's time for you to leave your house and to travel and to maintain your high frequency, your sacred space, you have access to environments that remind you of that. Because the same thing about food. If let's say I want to start eating plant based, like
Right.
permanently, that's just what I'm do. It doesn't make sense for me to, drive past or have to go into McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's, for any reason, right? It wouldn't make sense. But if I can drive and I leave my house, and for the entire day I never see a plant-based place that I can go, right? Or I have
Mhm.
to look real hard, like it's not in my normal traveling, then that's going to go. I'm gonna be fighting against the environment. But if I create an environment where not only plant-based foods exist, we're growing foods. We are, we're coming up with menu items. We are test kitchens and different things like that. But it's consistent. Then that environment will help me to be to travel that path easier. And it's like you said, you in life you're gonna have struggle and strife, but you know truthfully in life, what a human does is look for the easiest route. We look for ease. Like we don't go the hard route initially. We'll go and we just, ouch, that hurt. I got to be a different, a less painful way to deal with that. And we
Right.
start looking for it, and eventually, and that's what took they. That's what they perverted that concept and made it unnatural. And they went from looking for an easier way to just convenience. So now it's too much for us to get up off our behind and go and turn the channel on the TV. We got to have a remote control. It's, what I'm saying? It was stuff
Right.
like that that's just unnecessary, that went from just finding an easier way to just convenience, which bred laziness, and it bred entitlement, and it bred, all kind of these lower frequency things. And we sitting around, right? How many of us have been in a situation where we turned over the entire living room looking for the remote control? And all we could have done is just got up and turned the channel. So much
Right.
so that they can even make TVs that you can do that on now. You can't
Mhm.
even, like, you get a TV and you're like, where's the on button? Well, the remote
Right.
control is there. You got to get the remote control. So I got to put the TV up, then I got to go and sit down, then I got to
Right.
click around and do. So it's like that concept. That's an environment that bred a specific mindset. So it takes away from the sacred space. So your sacred space within you, and this is where we get into the human thing. If I as a human start this practice, you as a human start this practice, when we meet, all that happens is that practice expands. And then we
Right.
both say, we need more spaces, environments that support this practice. And eventually you have enclosed gardens in multiple areas. And now people are able to be in those environments. And what will happen is, and this is just a natural process, the mindset of humans will begin to change, and humans will begin to look for better because they'll be encouraged environmentally to
Right.
be better. And that is, but that's something that's going to, it's a generational process. We can't expect to do it and then blam, we fixed. Like, no,
Right.
a lot of us, we're still going to go to our grave carrying some sickness. The key is to carry as much of it with you as possible, so that very little of it stays for the next generation. And by the time the third generation comes, and then the fourth generation, that sickness is gone. you know But that's something that we have to do, and we have become too dependent upon social, um, just social dependencies to
Okay.
the point where we won't take that stand and do the work that we need to do on our own. There's always a program that we can benefit from, or there's always a, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
when you, because you teach about finance, which is great. I need you to come and talk to my students
Oh yeah.
on
Just let me know.
but there are there's literally 6,000 years of work that has
Mhm.
developed into what we see as finance and commerce today. Just like there's 6,000 plus years of work that is going into the religions that exist around the world.
Right.
So we're entering into a new cycle. So where's the beginning work that's going to go into the next 6,000 years of a more balanced planet, of a more sacred space availability for humans? And
Right.
that's where we are now. We're in those we're the seed, planting stages. Like, well, a little bit past the seed planting stages. We're kind of like in that first stage looking for those sprouts to come up. And as we're
Mhm.
doing that, that's starting a new cycle. And we have to do it. But this is something, that's why your sacred space has to be protected from the worst of you and the worst of the world, because the world is going to sense it. And when I say the world, I mean what they call modern society. I mean like Western society, or whatever you want to call it, that has got its hands into everything on the planet that is indigenous and has made it unnatural for their comfort. If you are, what I'm saying, if you're comfortable in the cold and you go somewhere where it's hot and you start building refrigerated, what I'm saying, storage facilities and stuff, then you're
Right.
making an environment unnatural to suit you. And that's exactly what Western society has done. It's made nature, so it made us think that it's okay to go to a zoo and look at animals. We think that that's normal, that's natural. That's a family weekend.
Right.
We think it's natural to get on roller coasters and rides that literally put our lives in danger for an adrenaline rush. We think that's a part of fun. So it's like we've become so unnatural in our existence that when it's time for us to find things that are better for us, we look to the unnatural, in the direction of the unnatural, to try to maybe they'll give us something. Like, really, that doesn't even make sense. So
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So for the person that wants to, again, part of their New Year's resolution is to become better, and they want to create this sacred space within their household to kind of get their mind right, right? Because
yeah,
it is, as people say, as above, so below, as in, so out, right? So you have to get your inner self right first before the outer self, can get itself in order.
right.
So they want to create this sacred space within the house. What are some of the key, I guess, items or elements they need to get to kind of get it started?
Um, I would start with normal cleaning items, because you want to cleanse the area, cleanse the space physically.
Okay.
Um, get you some sage, and just real basic. Get you some sage, the dried sage.
Hmm.
Get some frankincense rocks, the resin, and the charcoal that you burn it on.
Right.
Um, get you a candle. Get you a container for water, something to burn incense in, and start there. You have to consecrate the space. So what you're going to do is you're going to clean the space physically. Then you're going to take sage and you're going to sage the space so that you can keep the energies, the unwanted energies away. Um, you can personally sit in your space and and chant om, and do it like in the morning, get up and do do a 15-minute om chant. Afternoon, go back in and do a 15-minute om chant. In the evening, do an om chant, and just generate that energy, because we know Om is the tuning fork for the 19th galaxy. So it automatically raises the frequency. You can do that, or you can take a pre-recorded tone. Um, get you some frequency tones and have a speaker that plays it in there continuously throughout the day. just to start getting that space the way you want it to be.
So real quick.
Uh-huh.
So, pardon me, real quick. So when you say the frequency tones, like I know you had mentioned earlier, like is like you said the 440 or the 441, the different megahertz.
I think it's a 741 frequency. There's 428, 528. It's different ones that you can get. Like if you go to YouTube and just type in frequency music, right? It'll give you a nice list of frequencies that you can listen to. So 528, that's super positive energy in your home, energy clean. 432, then I have a playlist on Spotify, and I just have different frequencies that I'll just play. If I, sometimes I'll play them, when I go to sleep, or if I'm sitting at my altar or something like that, I'll play that. So it's just any one of those, and just play it, because if you go to YouTube, they have them, and they're like, what are they like? 3 hours, 3 hours long, 8 hours long, 11 hours. They have like really, and you just run it, play it,
So what's the difference between, like, let's say this, you said it's 728, and what's the difference with what do those numbers represent, like as far as the frequencies?
So,
and what are the benefits of each one?
Okay, so humans vibrate naturally. I believe it's the I don't want to get this messed up. 440, right? No, not 440. 428, and your heart has a specific frequency. Your lungs have a specific frequency. Your brain. So every organ in your body has a specific number frequency. The frequency of death is like, I want to say 27, something like that. But like death literally has a frequency. So the higher you vibrate, or the higher your frequency, the more you are able to move away from the material, the material hold that this mortal body has on us.
Okay.
So 528 is a general frequency that is used, like everybody knows about the 528, and the 528 is a healing frequency. It actually brings us back to our natural vibrational frequency. 741 is a really high spiritual frequency, right? But you can find a chart. Let me see if I can just, it's a chart that you can find that basically tells you which frequencies are, for what. Let me see. And when you start looking into these frequencies, you'll start realizing, like, okay, let me look at what the frequencies within my body are, and then let me start looking at the frequencies of things around me. Let me look at the frequency of the television, the frequency of my cell phone, the frequency of, and you start realizing these frequencies are all designed to drop my, my physiological frequencies. Frequency. And so let's say, if you go to the healing frequencies of the human body, right? Specifically, and I wanted to pull this up. They have specific, and I'll share this page too, so you can check it out. Because you can go, there's a lot of places on the internet where you can go and find this. All right. So you got 40 hertz. All right. They use 40 hertz in Alzheimer's therapies to stimulate increased neural response. 174 hertz, they use it in music, sacred music. It's a solfeggio frequency. 285 is also instrumental in the healing of cuts and burns and other wounds. 396, fear, removal of fear, negative feelings. 417, let me see, it's negative energy, removes negative energies. 432, it's the heart chakra. So that's, so it's like each one of these frequencies has a specific place and a benefit to the body, to the spirit, to the soul. And having those frequencies playing in your sacred space allows you to be able to walk into that space. And if you maintain those frequencies, so let's say today you're going to do heart frequency and you run the 432 hertz frequency in your sacred space all day. At the end of the day, you go in there and just sit in that frequency. And what will happen is that frequency will help to stimulate your heart. So there are frequencies that people use for manifestations. There are frequencies for that people use to remove depression. A lot of different things. The sicknesses that we suffer from in society are based on the fact that our society is designed to make us sick so that it can benefit off of the sickness. So if people's well-being was of concern, then healthcare wouldn't be so expensive. They wouldn't have a book with hundreds and thousands of diseases that they base their medicine off of, instead of saying, well, these things keep you healthy, right? They're like, no, do all this crazy stuff, and then when you come back with these problems, let us know what these problems are so we can start doing things to fix those problems or address those problems, which may cause other problems, but it's for science. So we've literally become a giant like a test tube guinea pig society, because that's what they're looking for, a new symptom. Like, what's bothering you? Doctors love coming in when you got this. So if they can't label it, if they don't know a name for it, then they got to bring in their colleagues and they got to come in and they got to come up with something new. And now they're adding something to their textbooks and all that stuff, because their whole science is based off of the aberration that humans have become. So these frequencies are designed to help us back. There's a movie that I always tell people to watch, Elysium, with Matt Damon. And in the movie, they had a machine that would heal you of anything. It was like only the elite people had it, who was on the little planet thing, the spinning ring that was outside of the Earth's atmosphere. But the machine was based upon frequencies. If you look at it, you'd be like, okay, so it read the body's frequencies, but it had something in it that allowed it to retune all of those frequencies back to their ideal state. That's all it was. So creating a sacred space in essence can become like that. Not that you can go in there, you got a gash in your arm and then the room just heals your arm, but it stimulates a better frequency within you that promotes healing. So right. This is what's needed. Like humanity needs to heal, but humanity can't heal until humanity realizes that the healing that it needs is within us. So how do we access that healing within us? We can help by creating spaces outside of us, sacred spaces that remind us, hey, you are a high vibrating being. What are you doing? What you mad for? What you depressed for? What you worried about? You are a high vibrating being. Vibrate higher. Here, come in here and let's vibrate higher together. And from that, you can. So imagine a hard day. You have to at the work. You go out. You're like, oh man, today was a day. I don't even know. I gotta do it, and probably gotta give tomorrow and do it again. And you go and you step into your sacred space, and just realign yourself. And you come out and you recharge, and you're like, okay. And now you have a little bit stronger purpose. So now it's like, okay, I'm not just I'm in a rat race and I'm depressed. Like, no, let me go and handle this business. But I have this business that I'm trying to start on the side. I can go ahead and I got more energy for it now. Let me go ahead and take care of that so I can make that transition quicker. So it's just about, making a way, or making a space for us, for humans, to become better. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters when it comes to what was happening on the planet. Can we become better as humans? Will we become better as humans? And if and when that happens, what will be the result? What will we do as humans who have become better?
Right. So we getting our sacred space set up. We have, we got our incense.
Yes.
We have the speaker with the frequencies playing. What else do we need within that environment?
You want a candle, and you want a container of water. And a plant. That's another thing. So you want to have like the basic elements in nature in there. So you got the four basic elements in eight nature. You got earth, water, air, and fire.
Okay.
So these things, this is one of the things that help you to stabilize you and rebalance you. So you start there. You put your intentions on your sacred space. You do your own chant. You light your candle. You burn your sage first before you light your candle. Then you light your candle, and then you light your frankincense. Your frankincense calls to the ancestors that you want to inhabit that space. If you have an altar and you have maybe a picture of a relative who transitioned or something like that, you put those pictures in there in that space so that your ancestors can reside in that sacred space and assist you in rebalancing your energies. Then you can light a general incense, whenever you go in there. But just that simple that simple setup that you have is the beginning. So now it's your job now to protect the space. So can't nobody go in there but you, because you know the rules, the parameters of this space. You know what's supposed to happen, what's supposed to take place in the space. So as you're protecting it, then you can go back and say, you know what, I want to add something in this space. You may feel it; it'll come to you. You're like, okay, I'm going to put another plant in here, or I'm gonna put some more crystals in here, or it's just whatever it is, you'll feel it, and then you can just build your space like that, and eventually you'll have a space so significant that even outside of it, you'll feel it. You can walk past it, and you'll feel the energy in that room. And what ends up happening is you eventually, ideally, that space is going to become larger. You're going to need to take it out of that one closet, and it's going to become the actual room that the closet is in. You can make it your house, your whole house, but if you have a family, if everybody in the family isn't like in accordance with what you're doing with that space, then you want to make sure that you have a specific space in the house for it. Eventually you can have a whole house, because eventually you want a community. We want to be humans in a community of sacred spaces. And that allows us to not only keep our vibration high, but we get into some of our ancient indigenous practices of protecting ourselves vibrationally, because we are sonically attacked, like daily. We're attacked, psychically. We're attacked frequency, but vibrationally. The attacks happen as soon as we open our eyes and while we're asleep. So when we can create spaces that ward off those attacks, where we don't have to actively protect, like we're not thinking about that, like, okay, I'm fighting off this energy. I use this affirmation of protection. Like we don't have to even do that because the environment itself is doing that. Now we can start to prepare that sacred space where the next generation of us will be, because that's the point of it. It's the point to be able to place our babies in that space where they don't even have to, eventually after a generation or two, they won't even have to experience the destruction of what they call Western society. They can just exist in those sacred spaces. And that concept is spoken about in a lot of schools of thoughts, a lot of religions, a lot of, what I'm saying? They talk about, just the children, the sacred children, the holy children, the purified children, they call it, Mukhlasina and Hawari, they got names for it. And this is a very, like, almost generalized but simple explanation of what they're talking about, because this allows what are we preparing for our children? What kind of a future are we preparing for them? Most of us aren't. We're just trying to prepare our children so that what's happening in the world don't completely destroy them.
Right.
And that's not a life. You know what I'm saying? We need to be preparing a future for the babies, and not even for our children, for the grandchildren.
Right.
And grandchildren will be the ones who benefit from that.
Yeah. Right. Now, how important is I guess diet in trying to get to the right frequencies? I hear people speak about there's different frequencies in food that we consume. Right? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Diet is as important to the sacred space as the mindset necessary to protect that sacred space. So, we generally we generally try to jump into things like, I'm gonna work out and I'm gonna hit the gym, and I'm getting my reps in. I'm gonna do, or I'm a fast and I'm gonna flush myself out, and then I'm not gonna eat nothing but green vegetables. So it's like we go into these extreme ways of thinking, but something that is simple and much more practical is paying attention to what energy is not only the food vibrates at, but what energy is put into the preparation of the food.
Mm.
You can make a 7-course meal and put an energy into it that'll make it as nutritionally and vibrationally beneficial as some carrots and broccoli, you know what I'm saying? But it's the energy that goes into it. So our grandmothers, great grandmothers, our matriarchs knew that. They was always talking about putting love in the food and different things like that. When we understand that there's energy that we put into the food, that's why it's important to eat more food that you prepare, as opposed to going out and eat food. And that's a big reason that they got us jacked up. I was watching something, and it was a doctor said they should call diabetes to what it really is, which is processed food disease. That's what it is. They said that the word diabetes is an Egyptian word, and it comes from like just too much, too much sugar or something like that. But we spend too much time consuming and not enough time producing. So because of that, we live in a mindset, we live in a state of existence where we're looking for everything quick. We need that fast food. We need, the meal to be prepared quickly. That's the microwaves. And so it's like we're not paying attention to the energies that are going into our food. So it may taste good at that moment, but the energy that went into it is probably the more destructive than actually the food is. So we want to understand that eating good and eating healthy is definitely a very important part of a sacred space, and maintaining the physical sacred space. But you want to make sure that you are responsible for the food you get, not just where you get it from, but the handling of it and everything. That's a very important part. Growing a food in your sacred space will help towards that. Grow something like take the end of get the romaine lettuce, and now you cut it, and then you had that little piece at the end of it, put it in some water and let it sprout. Do that in your sacred space, and just kind of like, because it's all about reconnecting with nature. So if I'm gonna reconnect with nature, then that means that I'm going to eventually seek to at least eat better. I mean, I can't be like, yeah, I'm reconnecting with nature while I'm eating a cheeseburger. You know what I'm saying? I like that doesn't make sense. So I want to, it's a process, but you want to take the process. You want the process to be as natural as possible. That's another thing. We get into things to better our health, but we get into processes that are unnatural. Weight loss, dietary, mental, all these different things. We get into unnatural processes trying to find our way back to a natural state. And that's one of the things living in this society has done. It's got us, these frequencies got us so high, we just, we're insane. We're literally insane. And in this insanity, we've developed a very powerful ability and to make excuses for the state that we're in. We're very good at that. We like, oh yeah, well that's just because such and such and so and so, and we strong in our conviction about that. Like, hey man, you just did something that is going to negatively affect your your whole future generation. Well, I was doing it such and such, and then and they got this whole explanation, and you look at them like, but the damage has been done. So what are you justifying that and it's like we don't want to be accountable anymore. So these are things that can help us put us back into a state where we have to start being accountable again for everything. You
Yeah.
know, what we think, what we say, what we do, where we go. All of these things. And when we get back to that state of accountability, then we'll understand really and truly how to care again as humans. Because we don't
Right.
know how to care as humans. We have concern for each
Mhm.
other. We want to look out for each other, but we don't know how to care. And when you care for another human being, you you're putting them in a position where the attention, the love, the self care that you would give to yourself, you want them to have it just like that, you
Mhm.
know, and you are willing to assist in them gaining it. And it's like we don't do that anymore, you know. Like we'll go and we'll help somebody's on the street struggling or something like that. We'll, give them some money, or we'll take them, get them something to eat, or so on and so forth. But in this society, a lot of times when people do that, we do it because we want to be seen, or we're thinking in terms of like notches in a ledger. Like, yeah, that's my good deed for the day. I
Right.
did some good, and so we're still just appeasing an ego. So it has
Mm.
nothing to do with really how that person is really doing, because a person can be down on their luck, and just have went through a really traumatic mental experience, and may just need somebody to talk with, just
Mhm.
need somebody to talk to, just need somebody to listen to them.
Right.
And you sitting and spending that time and listening to them, putting yourself in their shoes, understanding that, hey, I'm not judging you or anything. What's your story? Like, talk to me, and not because I want to know so I can have this information, but no, I just, what's going on? Because I feel I'm empathetic towards that energy that you're giving off, and I want to help to raise your vibration. And that's when you're carrying your sacred space with you, because now you're understanding what it really means to care, because you become empathetic, and you understand accountability, but you become empathetic to humanity, no matter who. Like, you see, like, man, this person is in this bad situation. Let me see if I can help them. Now,
Right.
this doesn't mean that you are naive to the reality of the types of natures and entities and beings that we exist amongst.
Right.
You're not naive to that. You're not just going to put yourself in a cave with a lion and stick your hand towards his mouth. So you're going to understand, like, okay, my empathy, because when you have your sacred space with you, you can tell, you can see it, when a person is genuinely in need, and when a person, has a motive. You can kind
Mhm.
of start telling. You can look at that person, right? And it's like I said again, it's not even judgmental. You just see the energy you emanating off this person. Like,
Mhm.
I give them a kind word, I'll say what I can say, but I'm not going to take time to stop and entertain their motive,
Mm.
you know. Whereas this
Yeah.
person over here they're having such a bad time, they can't even possibly have a motive. Like, look, I'm at the end of my rope, and I'm
Right.
like, but that's a frequency. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? You start to be able to recognize those frequencies. When we begin to deal with each other as humans based on frequency, right? We'll well we we'll be able to end war. We'll be able to, end starvation, hunger anywhere on the planet. We'll be any type of poverty. We'll be able to end it because we'll understand, like, those frequencies are not even necessary,
Right.
right? Somebody on this planet thinks that it's necessary for people to live in poverty because
Mm.
it benefits them. So
Right.
that means that somebody is vibrating at such a low frequency that that is a reality to them. So most of us go through, a lot of us were raised in those situations, and we struggle and try to find our way out of those situations, and end up finding ourselves in the rat race, scratching and clawing our way, trying to like I say, find a window seat in hell. That's literally what we live our lives doing. We just want a window seat in hell. We're not even trying to get out of hell. We just want a window seat. And we live our lives this way, and generation after generation, we become weaker and weaker as the indigenous beings we were, and we become sicker and sicker and more prone to that low frequency. And so all they got to do is come on TV and say something, put some on the
Mm.
radio, say something, and our frequencies go drop just like that. You know,
Right.
where were you at when Michael Jackson died? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I remember exactly where I was at and what I was doing and how I felt when I heard the news.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember where I remember. I can't remember exactly where I was at. I think what year was it? It was what I can't remember what the top of the year right now.
It was like 2008, something like that. I think when he passed.
Yeah.
2000, yeah, 2008 or 9. One of those. It was like right around that time.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at a table in Warner Robins, and we got a call, and somebody said it, and it was just kind of like everything stopped. Like, no, like not Mike. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that his passing had that kind of an effect on us shows that we are subject emotionally to whatever they give us, whatever they pour, they pour our way. So, and it's like, if we're going to create a better future for our children, we have to begin to think in terms of 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, 2,500 years, 5,000 years in the future. What kind of a future do we see for our generations? Right. And if we can't see anything out there, then we need to find somebody who can. And then, take that, listen to, follow this person, and not follow them, but listen to their vision, and then see if it works for something that you can build for, and we don't have that. The melanated community, we don't respect our visionaries. We have a lot of visionaries in our community, but we don't, because we don't understand what that really is. You a dreamer. We call them a dreamer. You got a dream. You need to just, and then what ends up happening, those of us who have a vision, and you got short-term and long-term visionaries. The short-term visionaries end up in Western society being embraced by the same engine that's designed to keep us suppressed. So like they'll become famous, a movie star, or in the entertainment business or something like that. So they'll be embraced by the same energies that was responsible for their generation suffering, but then it'll make them disconnect with that same generation. So now they've become, their vision has been taken and utilized for the benefit of somebody else. Yeah. Whereas long-term visionaries end up becoming winos on the streets. I mean, because their community will not, they don't understand that. So they can't see the merit of it, or they'll attack them, or they're like, man, this dude is stupid. He talking all this crazy stuff. He ain't got no. And it's like, we don't understand that person is a very, very important part of the future of that community. And they may be saying things like, man, this is, we can do this, and that. And the result won't even come till 50 years. And people are like, I ain't got time to wait for that, man. Everybody trying to, so it's like they won't get any support. So, but that's,
often tell people, you think about I think it was it the Great Wall of China that took like thousands of years to be built, and the first, I guess, the people who started the project knew that they wouldn't see the end of it, but they knew that project would be passed down from generation to generation. Right. Whereas it wouldn't be until 5, 6, 7, 8 generations down to see the benefit of it. But they wanted to put the sacrifice in today to ensure that their descendants will see the benefits of it. Right.
That's Western society for you. Western society done the same thing. When the fathers of Western society went into the indigenous communities and began to study and learn and pull information, when they brought it back to their people, they had to put it in a format where their generations, future generations, could use it and apply it so that it benefited them. Right. So they created Western curriculum. And Western curriculum allowed them a vehicle, because that's what that word, it comes from, fast chariot, a word that means fast chariot. They created a vehicle that was headed in a destination that benefited them. And what was their destination? Their destination was world domination and the eternal suppression of the indigenous. So that vehicle, to this day, looks like a Bentley. It's shiny, and we love getting in it because that's all we know. So when someone comes along and says, well, I created a curriculum. So of course my vehicle looked like a box car, like, what I'm saying? Like, like the box with the 4 little wheels on it, and a wagon, a pull wagon. Like, man, nobody want to get in that. But it's like when Western curriculum was a boxing wagon, they understood that, and everybody got behind it and pushed it and pulled it, and then eventually it became the vehicle that it is. So
Right.
that's something that's a hard lesson that a lot of us in the indigenous community will have to learn, whether we if we ever learn it, because that's something that our children need to learn. They need to understand, like, look, you have to, just like you love and you support your heroes or your the people that they push on you in society. You have to love and support your like your elders, your parents, but you got to look for your visionaries. You got to take care of your visionaries, because they're going to be the ones that put something in place that your grandchildren and your grandchildren's grandchildren will be able to benefit from, that you won't have to worry about, like, man, I'm leaving, what am I leaving, what kind of legacy am I leaving,
Yep.
and like one of the things we miss, we miss, um, is when we say I'm gonna leave a legacy for my children, we think an individual legacy. That's not a legacy, right? That's like that's a nice plan, but a legacy is something it's a community. It's an interconnected thing. It's like your children will be able to go around and be able to benefit from the principles of the legacy that a lot of other people were affected by and benefit from as well. So, you can't leave a legacy and just your children benefit from it, because then somebody gonna come and they're gonna take it, or your child's gonna spend their whole life fighting for it, and that's not fair for them. Why would you do that to them? So,
Yeah, I think that's again, when you speak about the sickness, we kind of got away from that community thought. We're more, individualized thinking.
right.
Making sure, make sure everything within my house is straight. Okay, I got food in my fridge, my cable's on, this, that, making sure our immediate family is straight, not thinking outside of that, because we come from a community mindset. That's what our ancestors were. And in the book, that I wrote, Malik's First Job, I kind of mentioned the word community means common unity, right?
Yeah.
Coming from a collective mindset, we all coming together to work on making sure everybody's straight. And that's how we came when we were coming up. We lived in communities where, your neighbors looked out for all the kids in the area, right? Where the next door neighbor, lady down the block, wasn't part of your immediate family, but she could still discipline you and still didn't have any issues with your parents about that. Right. So when we kind of gotten away from that, so I think that's something that we have to work towards. If we plan to seeing things come about for all of our kids in the future, we have to get back into that community mindset.
And I mean that's the sacred space. The sacred space is the catalyst, is the molecule that can bring that back, because it impresses upon us the need to fix ourselves. And when you fix yourself, you realize, like, wow, what have I been doing? I'm supposed to be a part of a collective, right? But I'm a part of a collective of people who are of the same frequency, of the same vibration. We are working toward the same thing, and we all say, well, yeah, these are the values that I want my children to have. Yeah, I agree. These are the values I want my children to have. And then we start working together to create the space that those values will live in, so that we can just place the children in there. And we don't have to worry about, well, my kids, and you can't, and that's all that comes from the selfishness and the sickness that has been perpetuated upon us environmentally over generations. And we can fix it. Like, it won't even take 2 generations. Like, it won't even take that long. It's progressive productivity. Like, we have to continue to move and be like, okay, be about that work, and that's the thing. We've gotten to the point now where, we're so used to the slave schedule, work schedule, where, well, I need to chill. I need to sit down and drink, I gotta, whatever, we feel we have to, like, have these moments where we just don't do anything, or we allow ourselves to be programmed by the diversions and distractions that have been given to us by the same structure. And we figure that's R&R. We need that. Where if we look at the example of our ancestors and we say, well, look, they weren't even working 8 hours a day. They good strong 4 hours, but they had time to work on themselves. They had time to work on community. They had time to spend with. So it was like their whole day was about the progressive productivity, necessary for that village, that community to to prosper and to thrive. And if you're doing that, then that village and that community takes care of you. So, you know, so okay, well, we can go back to that, but it's got you got to start at that healing process, that going inward process, because we've tried to bring people together organizationally for the last 100 years, and we see what happens. You know, this the ego, the selfishness, the infiltrators, all the different things, because there's multiple frequencies being thrown around, and we have not mastered the science of creating a space that protects us from those energies, outside energies. That's where we got to get back into, because within this space, what will eventually happen is we'll be able to place the essence of who we are within that space, and then we protect that essence, because our essence currently resides in museums and stuff that we own. That's where our essence is. So it has no value to us. It can't do any good to us. We can go in there and look at it and cry and all this stuff, but that's not helping us. So when we create a new essence, we don't have to let nobody know what it is, but we create a new essence and we put it in that sacred space. And then that sacred space becomes something of meaning, because now we authenticate the sacredness of that space. Can't nobody else come in and say, well, according to, like, we get up out of here. This is our thing that we did. And then now we authenticate that space and whatever's in that space, and whoever goes through that space, now we have the ability to authenticate them. And that's how we build ourselves back up. And now that community we won't have to say, let's build a community. It'll just happen. It'll just happen.
Yeah. All right. So any thoughts before you wrap up? Any thoughts you have that you want to share before we bring this to a close for the day? I know we can go on and on.
Yeah.
We'll be here all day building.
Yeah. If people are interested, I've put a link. The second link in there is an invite to the WhatsApp group that we're in for the Temple of Human Spirituality, and that's where we have our little discussions, and you can start learning some information about the Enclosed Garden Project. And when we actually start our first project, so what we're working on now is kind of like a scale model, just so people can physically see what we're trying to do. Then the next stage is going to create a working prototype, and then from there we'll get started on our first program. So if you're interested in checking that out, learning more about it, you can check us out on the WhatsApp page. We actually have a Telegram page for it as well, but so just wherever you want to find the Temple of Human Spirituality. We at the KaLu Center, if you're interested in communicating with me more about this, you can look at us on Instagram. And on Facebook, we have a Temple of Human Spirituality as well. There's a Facebook page for it. I'm not on Facebook as much, but that page is still there. And, you can post questions or anything, comments, and any kind of events and stuff that's coming up that we're going to be doing. So that's basically, the sacred space principle is what we're on this whole first part of the new year, helping people to understand the significance of it, even doing some consulting about helping people to put sacred space together in their own homes, and working on this first enclosed garden.
Great. So again, if you want to follow up, with Dr. Ellis, you can find him on Facebook. Look up Karaam Ellis, or on Instagram, the KaLu Center. And just one thing before we officially wrap up. I know you also have a cafe where you do pop-ups.
Yeah.
You cook, right? Can you kind of build upon that as well?
Yeah. We started a food service called the KaLu Cafe. We serve plant-based food. We're starting off with simple, quick foods that people are familiar with, but we have a very unique plant-based meat substitute, and we make our tacos and nachos and wraps and things like that. We're here in the Hampton Roads. We pop up a lot of events. We actually pop up. We're popping up at a place called the Satvic Space here in Portsmouth, Virginia, and on Thursdays and Fridays from noon to 6. So people can come through and try out some of our foods. But we've been at the Veg Fest. and a lot of other events that are happening in the Hampton Roads. Eventually, we'll start moving around. We're looking to get a truck, and that's just one of the components that actually ties into the sacred space concept, because eating good is an important part of this whole process as well.
Exactly. All right, cool. So again, thank you for taking the time, to share, information with our audience today. We got to do this again. Like I said, it's a lot to share. A lot of good information people need to hear. So again, if you want to follow up with Dr. Ellis, follow him on Facebook or Instagram. And thank you all again for joining us today on the Malik's First Job podcast. And we'll see you again next week. Peace.
Peace.
Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens, is an excellent resource to get your children started on understanding the basics of financial literacy. This book, which is set in Brownsville, Brooklyn, about a young man who gets his first job and then shortly thereafter sits down with his dad to learn how to manage his money. There are several topics that are covered within this work, such as paying yourself first, disciplining your spending, knowing the difference between an asset and a liability, creating multiple sources of income, as well as the importance of being charitable. So again, if you want to get your children started on understanding finance and becoming responsible adults, we highly recommend that you purchase the book, Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens. So please visit maliksfirstjob.com to get more information. Peace.
Generational wealth.